I paid my sister's bills by working hard only to her call me cheap at family dinner. I shocked her when I stopped paying and told family what was waiting for her next. You know how some people joke about being the family bank? For me, it wasn't a joke, it was my life. For 5 years, I'd paid my sister Melissa's rent, utilities, and even chipped in for groceries when her husband left. The guy couldn't handle her temper, and frankly, I didn't blame him. She could be difficult, but she was my sister, and when our parents pulled the golden years card to avoid helping, the job fell to me. It wasn't easy. I'm not a millionaire, just a regular guy with a blue-collar job and one vacation a year, if I'm lucky. But I kept telling myself, who else is going to help her if I don't? So I took it on. Diapers when her daughter Ellie was a baby. Birthday presents every year. Even the tablet Ellie wanted for school last year. I gritted my teeth and told myself I was doing the right thing, even if it meant tightening my own belt. But here's the kicker, Melissa didn't stay broke. About a year ago, she got a decent job, one with benefits and a salary that kept her from drowning in bills. I figured I'd help out for a little while longer, just until she got back on her feet. What I didn't expect was for her to show up at family dinners and talk about all the expensive things she was buying for herself. At first I kept quiet. I told myself, maybe she just needs to enjoy life a little bit after everything she's been through. But last week she crossed the line. We were at my parents' house for dinner, me, Melissa, Ellie, our parents, and my Uncle Rob. Melissa casually mentioned that she wanted to buy a designer purse. Not just any purse, one that cost over $500. So I'm helping you spend hundreds of dollars on this? I asked, keeping my tone calm but firm. Her response? Oh, don't be cheap, John. That comment was cheap too. Something inside me snapped. 5 years of sacrifice, of giving up things I wanted so she could stay afloat, and I was cheap? I didn't immediately explode. I just sat back in my chair and looked around the table. Mom and Dad were pretending to find their mashed potatoes fascinating. Melissa looked smug, like she'd scored some kind of point. Uncle Rob was the only one who didn't look uncomfortable. Cheap? I finally said. You want to talk about cheap? Let's talk about how I pay your rent while you buy designer purses. Let's talk about how our parents refuse to lift a finger because they're enjoying their golden years, and I'm the idiot who has to clean up the mess. You know what, Melissa? I'm done. No more rent, no more groceries, no more pills for Ellie. You're on your own. The room fell silent. Then Uncle Rob leaned back in his chair and said, Way to go, John. You don't owe anyone anything. I got up, grabbed my jacket, and headed for the door. Before I left, I turned back to Melissa. And if you think this is just temporary anger, you're wrong. You'll be paying your own rent, your own bills, and your own groceries from now on. As for Ellie, I hope she grows up better than this, but she's not my daughter. That's up to you. I walked out. Uncle Rob followed me out, patting me on the back and muttering something about how he wished he'd said it himself. But as much as his support meant, I couldn't shake the anger. 5 years and I was the bad guy. This was just the beginning. The fallout would come next, and it would be uglier than I had ever imagined. A week passed and I didn't hear a word from Melissa. I wasn't expecting a thank you, but I thought there would be at least a blow-up text or a dramatic voicemail. Nothing. The silence unsettled me more than I cared to admit. Then, late one night, there was a knock at my door. When I opened it, I wasn't surprised to see my parents standing there, looking annoyed. I let them in, thinking this was the moment they'd come to lecture me about family responsibilities. We need to talk about Melissa, Mom said, her voice sharp. Do we? I asked, leaning against the counter. She's struggling, John, Dad added. Ellie doesn't deserve to suffer because of your stubbornness. Don't punish the child. I laughed, but not because I found anything funny. So let me get this straight. You two who refuse to help her because you're too busy enjoying cruises and wine tastings want to guilt me into bailing her out again. Is that fair? That's not fair, Mom snapped. We're retired. You're young and capable. She's your sister. And she's your daughter. I shot back. Funny how that works. They didn't like that. The conversation spiraled into the same old routine. Family should always help family. I was heartless. Ellie was an innocent child. I listened for a while, then cut them off. If you care so much, why don't you start paying her bills? I asked. Mom scoffed. We don't empower her like you do. She has to learn responsibility. Exactly, I said. And she's not going to learn as long as everyone keeps bailing her out. Dad gave me a look like I'd just kicked a puppy. You're being cold, John. This isn't like you. Maybe not, I said, walking to the door and holding it open. But it's how I'll be from now on. Thanks for stopping by. They left, grumbling under their breath, but I felt good about standing my ground. At least I did until 2 days later when the real bombshell dropped. Melissa called me out of the blue, and I answered out of curiosity. What do you want? I asked. Her voice was strangely calm, almost cheerful. I just wanted to let you know that I'm moving out of the apartment next month. I frowned. Why? Can't you afford it without me? Oh, I can afford it, she said. I just don't want to. I found something better. That threw me. Better? You're moving to a nicer place? Not exactly, she replied, and there was something smug in her tone that made my teeth tingle. I'm moving back in with Mom and Dad. That hit me like a punch in the gut. What? Yeah, they offered, she said casually, like it was no big deal. They said they didn't want Ellie to suffer because of your little tantrum. So I'm putting my stuff in storage and moving into the guest room. Should be cozy. At first I was too stunned to react. All I could picture was Melissa lounging around my parents' house, free of rent and responsibility, while they doted on her and made excuses for her behavior. Oh, and one more thing, she added, her voice dripping with fake sweetness. You might want to check your credit report. Just a heads up. My stomach sank. What the hell does that mean? She laughed. You'll find out. Bye, Johnny. I hung up and immediately logged into my credit account. What I saw made my blood run cold. There was a new credit card account in my name with a balance that made my head spin. Thousands of dollars charged to stores I'd never shopped at, all opened in the last 6 months. Melissa had been using my information to fund her little shopping sprees. That was when everything changed. Helping her was one thing. Being played for a fool was something else entirely. This wasn't just about cutting her off anymore, this was war. My hands shook as I stared at the screen. Thousands of dollars in debt, all in my name. Designer stores, electronics, even airline tickets, it was all there. Melissa had been living her little life of luxury on my dime, and I hadn't even noticed. I immediately called the credit card company to report the fraud, but the representative confirmed what I already suspected. The charges had been made using my information, name, address, social security number. It wasn't just fraud. It was identity theft. After the call, I sat in stunned silence. Melissa had crossed a line I didn't even know she was capable of. I thought about Ellie, how much I'd done for her, the sacrifices I'd made to make sure she had everything she needed. And now her mother had turned around and done this. I had to calm down before I did something stupid. So I called Uncle Rob. Uncle Rob was the only one at that family dinner who saw things for what they were. When I told him about the credit cards, he let out a low whistle. This is the next level of crap, Johnny, he said. What are you going to do? I don't know, I admitted. If I press charges, Ellie gets caught in the middle. But if I don't, Melissa gets away with it. Look, you're my nephew, so I'll support you either way, Rob said. But you need to think this through. She's not going to stop unless someone makes her. He was right. I didn't want to hurt Ellie, but I couldn't let Melissa walk all over me. It wasn't just the money, it was the principle. The next day, I began to put my plan together. First, I called a lawyer. I needed to know my rights and what my options were. Melissa had made a huge mistake using my name and not bothering to cover her tracks. Every charge led right back to her. The attorney confirmed that I had a strong case for pressing charges, but he also suggested something I hadn't thought of: negotiating with her before going to the authorities. Sometimes the threat of legal action is enough to get people to do the right thing, he said. I wasn't sure Melissa was capable of doing the right thing, but I agreed to give it a try. I called her that evening. She picked up on the second ring, probably expecting another argument. "Hey, Johnny," she said cheerfully. "What's up?" "Cut the crap, Melissa," I said. "I know about the credit cards." There was a long pause, then a nervous laugh. "What are you talking about?" "Don't play dumb," I snapped. "I already reported the fraud, and I have a lawyer. You used my information to open these accounts, and every single charge is tied to your name." Her tone changed immediately. "Johnny, it's not what you think. I was going to pay it back. Things got tight and I dash." "Save it," I said. "Here's what's going to happen. You're going to pay back every cent of that debt. If you don't, I'm going to press charges, and you can explain yourself to a judge. Your choice." "Johnny, please," she pleaded. "Ellie dash. Don't drag her into this," I said. "She's the only reason I'm even giving you this chance." I hung up, hoping she'd take me seriously. But I knew Melissa too well. She wasn't the type to accept consequences without a fight. The next move was mine, and I was ready for whatever came next. I didn't expect Melissa to take me seriously, so when I got a call a week later from my credit card company saying the accounts had been paid in full, I was surprised. Relieved, sure, but surprised. Then I got the full story, and the relief didn't last long. Apparently, Melissa had gone crawling back to our parents for the money. They had fronted her the cash to pay off the cards, draining the vacation fund they'd been saving for a winter trip to the Caribbean. When I heard about it, I laughed, not because it was funny, but because the whole situation was so absurd that it was either laugh or scream. A day later, my phone rang. It was Mom. I thought maybe she was calling to tell me everything was settled, but I should have known better. "Are you happy now?" she asked as soon as I picked up. "Excuse me? You ruined everything," she snapped. "We had to give Melissa the money we were saving for our trip, and now we're stuck here for the winter because of you." I took a deep breath. "Let me get this straight. I ruined everything? Not Melissa, who committed identity theft and put me thousands of dollars in debt? Not you and Dad, who refused to help her for years and dumped it all on me? No, it's my fault. You didn't have to threaten her like that." Mom shot back. "You could have worked it out as a family. We tried, remember? For 5 years I was the one working things out. And look where it got me. You didn't have to get lawyers involved, John," she yelled. "She's your sister. And I'm your son," I yelled back. "Funny how that doesn't seem to matter when it comes to me, isn't it?" She was silent for a moment, then said coldly, "You're not the man I thought you were." "Good," I said. "Because I'm finally the man I should have been all along, one who doesn't let his family walk all over him." The fallout was immediate. Mom and Dad were furious. Melissa played the victim, telling anyone who would listen that I had bullied her into paying back the money. Even Ellie was dragged into it, though I did my best to shield her from the drama. Uncle Rob, of course, had my back. "Let them be mad," he said as I vented to him. "You're the only one in the family with any sense. Let them stew." But it wasn't that easy. Family dinners were tense. Mom rarely spoke to me, and when she did, it was to make pointed comments about loyalty and forgiveness. Dad kept his distance, too, though he wasn't as vocal about it. And Melissa? She acted as if nothing had happened. She'd show up with Ellie, smiling and laughing, like we were all one big happy family. But every now and then I'd catch her giving me a look, cold, calculating, like she was already plotting her next move. The real kicker came when I heard from Ellie. She called me one night and asked if I could help her with a school project. I was happy to oblige, but as we talked, she hesitated and then said something that broke my heart. "Uncle John, are you mad at me?" "No, honey," I said quickly. "Why would you think that?" Mom says you won't help us anymore because you're mad at her. But I haven't done anything wrong. Have I? I felt a lump in my throat. No, Ellie. You didn't do anything wrong. And I'll always be here for you, no matter what. Okay? Okay, she said quietly. I hung up and sat there for a long time, staring at the wall. I didn't want to give in, I couldn't. But then I realized that this wasn't just about me or Melissa anymore. There were deeper rifts in our family that I hadn't wanted to see before. And mending them? It wouldn't be easy. If it was even possible. The tension in the family only got worse after that. Every gathering became a battleground of passive-aggressive remarks and icy silences. Melissa continued to play the victim, leaning into her role as the poor single mom who had been unfairly punished. Mom and Dad weren't much better. Every time I saw them, they found a way to slip in some comment about family loyalty, or how hard it was for them to see Melissa struggle. Never mind that her struggle was to move into their house, eat their food, and do little else. The breaking point came at Ellie's school play a few weeks later. Melissa had told me about it, and of course I showed up. I didn't want to punish Ellie for what her mother had done. She was on stage singing with her classmates, and I could see how proud she was when she spotted me in the crowd. After the performance, we all gathered in the school gym for refreshments. Ellie ran up to me, beaming, and I handed her a small bouquet of flowers I'd picked up along the way. "Thanks, Uncle John," she said, giving me a big hug. Melissa appeared a moment later, her expression as sour as ever. "Really, John? Flowers? Are you trying to buy her love now?" I ignored her and turned back to Ellie. "You did great up there, kid. I'm proud of you." Ellie smiled, but Melissa wasn't finished. She folded her arms and said loudly, "You know, it's funny how you can afford flowers, but you couldn't find it in your heart to keep helping your family." A few heads turned and I felt my face heat up. "Are you really going to do this, Melissa?" I said quietly. "Why not?" she shot back. "You've already embarrassed me in front of everyone. Might as well make it a full set." I sighed and turned to leave, but her next words stopped me cold. "Ellie deserves better," she said. "She deserves an uncle who actually cares about her, not someone who uses her to make himself feel better." I turned, my voice low but firm. "You don't get to play that card, Melissa. Not after what you've done. And I'm not going to stand here while you try to turn Ellie against me. She's not stupid. One day she'll see the truth." I left after that, not trusting myself to say more. The fallout from that scene was immediate. Mom called me the next morning, furious. "How could you humiliate your sister like that? At Ellie's recital of all places? Did she tell you what she said to me?" I asked. "It doesn't matter," Mom snapped. "You're supposed to be the bigger person." "I've been the bigger person for 5 years," I said. "And where has it gotten me?" "Nowhere." "Well, you've made your point," she said coldly. "You can stop punishing her now." "This isn't punishment," I said. "It's consequences. Maybe if you and Dad had taught her that when we were kids, we wouldn't be in this mess." She hung up, and I didn't hear from her again for days. Then, a week later, the unexpected happened. Ellie showed up at my door. When I opened it, she was standing there with a backpack slung over her shoulder and tears in her eyes. "Mom told me I can't call you anymore," she said softly. "But I don't want to stop seeing you." My heart broke again. I knelt down and hugged her tightly. "You're always welcome here, Ellie. Always." "I don't want to go back," she whispered. I froze. "What do you mean?" "I hate it there," she said. "Mom and Grandma are always fighting, and they always talk about you. I just want to stay here with you." I had no idea what to say. I wasn't prepared for this, but I knew one thing for sure. I wasn't going to let Ellie get caught in the crossfire any more than she already had. "Come inside," I said quietly. "We'll figure this out." And just like that, everything changed. Ellie sat on my couch, clutching a cup of hot cocoa I'd made for her, looking smaller than I'd ever seen her. She'd always been such a bright, confident child, but tonight she seemed lost. I knew it wasn't just the fighting at home, it was years of being stuck between adults who should have been better. We talked for a long time, just the two of us. I asked her about school, her friends, and her favorite books, trying to make her feel comfortable. Eventually, she opened up about what was really bothering her. "Why does everyone fight so much?" she asked quietly. "Why can't we all just get along?" I took a deep breath, not sure how to explain. "Sometimes adults make mistakes," I said. "Big ones. And if we don't fix them, they can hurt the people around us. That's what happened to your mom and me. But none of this is your fault, Ellie. Do you understand that?" She nodded, but didn't look convinced. "Mom says you hate us." I felt a sharp pain in my chest. "I don't hate anyone," I said firmly. "I love you, Ellie. And I want what's best for you. That's why I've had to make some hard decisions lately. It's not easy, but sometimes doing the right thing means not letting people take advantage of you even if they're family." She stared into her cup, processing this. "So, you're not mad at me?" I shook my head. "Never. You're the best part of this family. And I want you to remember something, okay? When you grow up, you're going to have to make tough decisions too. People may try to push you around or make you feel small. But you don't have to let them. You're strong, Ellie. Stronger than you know. And you can always stand up for yourself." She smiled a little at that, and I felt a flicker of hope. When it was time to take her home, she looked reluctant to leave, but I promised her we'd see each other again. "No matter what your mother says, I'll always be here for you," I said. We pulled up to my parents' house, and as soon as we got out of the car, Melissa stormed out the door. "What is she doing here?" she demanded, glaring at me. "Relax," I said. "She just needed some space." We had a talk and I took her home. Melissa started to argue, but Ellie stepped forward and said, "Mom, stop. I wanted to see Uncle John." That shut her up. For once, she looked genuinely surprised. Before I left, I gave Ellie one more hug. "Remember what I said," I whispered. "You're strong." She nodded, her face determined. In the months that followed, things didn't magically get better, but there was progress. Ellie began to stand up for herself more, even with Melissa. She insisted on calling me regularly, and Melissa finally gave up trying to stop her. As for me, I remained firm in my boundaries. My relationship with my parents remained strained, but I didn't regret my choices. I'd been the family doormat for too long, and I wasn't going back. The biggest surprise came from Uncle Rob. He reached out to Ellie directly, offering to help her with school projects, and even taking her out for ice cream when things got rough at home. It wasn't the same as fixing everything, but it gave Ellie another safe place to go. I still saw her as often as I could, and each time I reminded her of the same thing: she was strong, she was smart, and she didn't need to be pushed around. Melissa never apologized, and I didn't expect her to. But I didn't need her to. In the end, I'd done what I had to do for myself and for Ellie. And that was enough. A few weeks after that night, Ellie sent me a hand-drawn card. Inside it said, "Thank you for always believing in me. I'll always remember what you said, I'm strong." It wasn't much, but it reminded me that standing my ground had been worth it.